Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. U.S. President Donald Trump has sent a letter to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban confirming his willingness to visit Hungary and wishing Orban the best of luck in the crucial April elections. The correspondence praises the so-called golden era of U.S. Hungarian relations and signals Trump's interest in closer cooperation on defense, energy and migration issues. Today we discuss what this means for Hungary's election, the opposition's challenge and the wider implications for European politics. We're joined with Philipp, Köker, political scientist at the Leibniz University of Hanover. Good to have you here on TVP World. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's begin with this correspondence, this letter. If we're looking at what Donald Trump has written, the best of luck, do you think this is genuine? Will this make the difference for Orban in the upcoming elections?
Well, I think we can really say that this is genuine. Viktor Orban has been an ally of Donald Trump within Europe. Hungary has been identified by the U.S. administration as a country that could be persuaded to leave the EU or break the EU from within. So I think wishing luck is genuine. Whereas when it comes to other parts of the letter, specifically thanking Orban for the invitation to come to Hungary and saying that he'll check his schedule, I think it's quite doubtful that Donald Trump will actually come to Hungary during this election campaign, as some have speculated. This might be also part of rather diplomatic niceties, notes that are exchanged after meetings and after invitations are extended. But we also know that Donald Trump uses these kinds of letters and statements to publicly signal support and give foreign leaders or allies something that they can use for their own publicity.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about how realistic that kind of visit would really be. When if we look at something comparable some time ago, if we look back in May in Poland, Donald Trump also did support now the current conservative president, Mr. Nawrocki, but at the same time, he didn't come himself. He sent someone from his administration. Do you expect him to do the same, or will he really come? And what materially will it really impact of the results of the election?
Yeah, as I said, it's quite unrealistic that Donald Trump himself, president of the United States with truly global ambitions, will come to a comparatively small country like Hungary and try to help out his buddy Viktor Orban in the election campaign. What we could imagine is that some other Trump official will stop by in Hungary during the campaign if there are any other kind of engagements in the region. So perhaps somebody will come after the Munich Security Conference. The question is, will it make a difference? This election in Hungary has been very much about domestic issues. While Viktor Orban has tried to reactivate his campaign against the EU, against international foes, or Volodymyr Zelensky, and most of what people are talking about, or what seems to move people, are really truly domestic issues: high inflation, a high budgetary deficit, stagnant and low wages, and of course allegations of corruption against Viktor Orban and his allies. And then inviting somebody from the Trump administration that itself has been accused of corruption and cronyism might actually be rather an opportunity for the opposition to become stronger, to highlight failings in the Orban regime. So I think it won't make much of a difference for supporters of Orban, but it could make even more of a difference for the opposition that could seize upon this opportunity.
And I want to talk about the opposition in a moment, but I'm curious, you mentioned the Munich Security Conference. The viewers might remember of the Vice President J.D. Vance being very vocal about criticizing Europeans then. If we're looking also in the past year, maybe even if Trump doesn't come, what about any sort of ambitions in your mind of building some kind of more bridges, a European-based MAGA movement? We've seen what Elon Musk was trying to do with the AfD in Germany. Do you see that being part of Trump's strategy here?
Well, when we look at the German elections, when Elon Musk was still firmly in Donald Trump's camp, and Elon Musk has also done afterwards in several elections, we could have thought that this was part of a Trump strategy to help Europeans build its own MAGA movement. He's also met leaders from the German AfD, for example. But especially looking at what the Trump administration has done in recent months or even days, it looks like priorities have shifted quite a bit. And perhaps this project of a European MAGA movement or greater networking between these different forces has perhaps been abandoned.
All right. And you mentioned the opposition. Let's talk about that for a minute. Peter Magyar, really someone who actually has come from Fidesz, from Orban's own ranks, really, but he's become one of the really serious contenders in a very long time. What are his chances in your mind? We still have some ways to go, but then really how different is TISA on many policy areas, what we still don't know? How different is that party if they were to, let's say, secure some kind of victory?
Yeah, Peter Magyar, the now leader of TISA, is quite an interesting figure, having come from the inside of Fidesz, former husband of a former government minister in the Orban government, who then had to resign due to a scandal. The rise of TISA is quite interesting because it's managed to gain support across almost all of Hungary. And it's followed a completely different strategy than the other opposition parties before, because it's tried to build a grassroots movement, grassroots support. As I've said, this campaign is about domestic issues, and it's about domestic issues because the opposition party has been very good at mobilizing people on issues such as inflation, low wages, and or also energy prices or corruption in the regime. However, when it comes to concrete policies, we don't know as much about the party as we maybe would like to or could expect just 4 months before the election. Because on a number of very contentious policy issues where Orban has been very vocal, TISA has been quite silent, and that's especially the international arena. What we do know is that TISA wants to unfreeze the 16 billion euros of EU funding that are currently being locked because of rule of law violations. On the other hand, especially the TISA members of the European Parliament that have been there for 1.5 years now are highly critical of this EU rule of law procedure that's responsible for freezing those funds. So when it comes to rectifying rule of law violations in Hungary, it's really difficult to say what the opposition will actually do, because as we've seen in Poland, just the fact that another party that promised to deal with all these issues was elected was enough for the EU Commission to unlock those funds. And so perhaps even the pressure is a bit off on the opposition in dealing with these issues.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the European Union, I mean, this is something that Viktor Orban has very much pummeled. He's attacked Brussels, European institutions. That's been his narrative. But at the same time, very much still dependent on the Hungarian economy on those critical EU funds. So where is the reality? Do the population understand that Europe is necessary? Is it really, let's say, do they follow Orban's narrative in this? Is it somewhere in the middle? Because, I mean, EU support is vital for Hungary to keep going, isn't it?
Yes. So in Hungary, as well as in other Central and East European countries where we've seen these authoritarian populist forces rise to power with anti-EU rhetoric, the population is still very much in favor of remaining in the European Union. They see the benefits of freedom of movement, economic benefits as well, even if of course, there's also increased competition. And at the same time, they also seem to follow the rhetoric that we've seen here from Viktor Orban. So it's a bit of a double think situation where in the one hand, you see all the benefits, and on the other hand, you believe the propaganda, you could call it that, that claims that actually they're getting the short end of the stick here.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I mean, let's look at optics as well. Let's play devil's advocate. I mean, if we look at Viktor Orban, he's very much touted himself to the world as a man who's standing between Vladimir Putin, also with Donald Trump. He was the one talking about energy and cost of living, right? He was able to get that exemption from those secondary sanctions by the United States against Russia. So he is very much trying to project this image. How does the ordinary Hungarian view this? Is this convincing enough? Is there something else? I mean, we've seen the protests, but where's the reality? Will he clinch another victory? Will he be pushed out? Big questions, but where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think Viktor Orban has done a great job for the 16 years he was in power to portray himself as a maker, a strong man, even to the degree that we could maybe say that in his first term, Donald Trump saw Viktor Orban as a role model in that regard. And Viktor Orban also has been very successful in portraying his image of, being close to different powers in the world and securing what is right for Hungary. But now with all these different economic problems, especially coming to the forefront, I think voters are seeing more and more that, the problem that the Hungarian economy and Hungary overall is facing are really not due to any more international forces or any kind of unseen elites that are usually blamed by populists like Viktor Orban, but it's perhaps Viktor Orban himself who was in power for 16 years now and would have had perhaps the opportunity to change something for the better himself.
Mm-hmm. Just a final line to close. What are Peter Magyar's chances if you were to make an educated guess at the moment, just before we close?
Yeah, I think at the moment when we look at the non-government affiliated polling agencies, TISA is polling ahead at 5 to 8%, and that would be enough to secure a victory. But yeah, there's still 4 months to go, so a lot of things can change.
Yeah, indeed, and it's going to be a tough campaign indeed. Look, thank you so much. That was Philipp Köker there, Leibniz University, Hanover. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.